He felt that this was kind of an underrated topic, and I, of course, love Godzilla soundtracks. So here I am to do another tier list. Let's rank all the Godzilla soundtracks. Now, I have pretty much the main movies, I think, plus the anime series as well as the 3 anime movies. So, but everything should be here. Again, this was a tier list that I found on the internet. So, yeah, without further ado, let's get into this. So first off, we obviously have Godzilla 1954, the original, Gojira. This one, I think, has to be put in peak because it literally is like everything about Godzilla that made... It's literally from Akira Ifukube. It set the standard for what Godzilla music should be, and it's just super iconic. Everything in that movie, in terms of the soundtrack, it's just amazing. To also put a disclaimer before we continue, I'm not really a music major or anything, so when it comes to me like describing music, I'm not really that good at it, so a lot of the time it's just going to be me saying, this is great, it's memorable, it's awesome, but again, this is me just trying to explain why I love the soundtracks. So, moving on, we have Godzilla Raids Again. Now, I'm going to say Godzilla Raids Again, I'm going to say the soundtrack is average. And I say that because obviously it's not as memorable as the original. I'm not going to say it's forgettable because at least like the first theme, the dun 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 dun, like that theme is actually really exciting, and it's really like the main themes that are good. It's sort of the other background music that's not as great, so that's why I'm going to put that one in average. Now, of course, with King Kong vs. Godzilla, this is also going to go in peak. That is like just instant classic Godzilla soundtrack there. The King Kong theme, the drums and all of that, the background music to it is just amazing. Even the fight music is awesome. So that's definitely going to be in peak as well. And then for Mothra vs. Godzilla, this movie itself for me, I'm not a big fan of, but I can't deny that again it's peak because it seems like a lot of the starting, like Akira Ifukube, I feel like this is just going to be a Akira Ifukube jerk-off fest because like it's just anything that he did was just amazing, and especially in the early Showa films he just established like here's how these soundtracks should go, and it's just great. So for Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, this will be the first time I'm going to put this in amazing actually, because when I think of soundtrack, the way that a soundtrack should go on to S tier is that it instantly memorable. Instantly I can pick up a tune and I know exactly, like I can hear it in my head. With Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, I can't fully think of a soundtrack off the top of my head from it, but I do know it is still an amazing soundtrack. Same thing with Invasion of the Astro Monster. I'm going to put that as well. Same thing with Invasion of the Astro Monster. I know that the soundtrack is amazing, but there's not like a tune off the top of my head that I can start humming right away. Now for Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster, I'm going to put it in average. I really don't like Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster. It's probably my least favorite in the whole filmography, but the soundtrack is at least somewhat fun, and it's a soundtrack that was very different from the established soundtracks that we've gotten before, but it has more of that surfer dude kind of like vibe to it, which makes it kind of cool, but it's nothing that's like the top 2 here. And then we have Son of Godzilla, and I'm gonna put Son of Godzilla actually at amazing because I actually really, again, even though I'm not a big fan of the movie itself, I actually do really enjoy the soundtrack. Again, not peak for me, but it definitely is a pretty amazing soundtrack. It's fun, colorful, it's like vibrant, it just makes you feel all cheery, and it fits perfectly with the film. And then Destroy All Monsters, this one I'm definitely putting in peak. Again, I know that I, again, have a disagreement when it comes to Destroy All Monsters in terms of the movie itself, but the soundtrack, it's like, again, this was the all hands on deck, let's make the final Godzilla film, let's get all the director, the producer, the composer, like all the classic guys to come back to make this product, and the soundtrack just oozes memorable, and the first title card, like when the title shows up, just amazing. And then we have Godzilla's Revenge, and I am going to put this at average as well. The soundtrack for Godzilla's Revenge is enjoyable, but I wouldn't say it's amazing nor peak. But I would say it's like if it's something that's enjoyable, I'm like, okay, cool. It's average. So Godzilla versus the Smog Monster, or Godzilla versus Hedorah. This one is kind of tricky for me because, again, I can't think of a track off the top of my head in terms of like to hum it. So I'm gonna put it at average because I know it's sort of a little bit of a dour like track, because I remember like the brass, the drum, brum, brum, like the music's very muted, which fits the film obviously, but it's not as like exciting. So I'm gonna put that in average. Now, Godzilla vs. Gigan, this one's tricky because for the longest time I thought it was its own original soundtrack, but I found out through obviously learning about Godzilla and whatever throughout the years that a lot of Godzilla vs. Gigan's soundtrack is not from that film. It's actually from a lot of other previous Toho films. But from my perspective, the way I grew up, this was like this soundtrack, I heard it first from this film. So for me, it like every time I think of Godzilla vs. Gigan, those are the tracks that play. So I'm actually going to put it at amazing because I think even though it's a lot of reused tracks from previous Toho films, for me personally, I really dig the soundtrack of Godzilla vs. Gigan. Again, not peak because it is a bunch of reused content, but I would say it just fits the film and it just is really great. Godzilla vs. Megalon, I'm going to put an average as well. It kind of fits the same tone for me in terms of like I don't know. This one's tricky because Godzilla vs. Megalon is very exciting in terms of its soundtrack, but it's also very weird because it has that I remember it has that twangy kind of like sort of instrumental parts. I don't know. Okay, you know what? Screw it. I'm gonna put it in amazing. Actually, I think if I were to put on Godzilla vs. Megalon right now, I would probably have a good time. Now, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, that's going in peak. That's probably, I think that's the first non-Akira Ifukube composed score that's in peak now. But Godzilla vs. Megalon is just, you can't beat it. The fight music, dun 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 bum bum dun. Boom, 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 boom. Like I could just go see, like if I can hum it or whatever, like that means it's peak for me. Terror of Mechagodzilla is the same because again, it's Akira Ifukube. He's back and boom, just full force, finishing off the Showa era, and I feel like Terror of Mechagodzilla's peak, of course. Now, moving into the Heisei era, I am biased, and of course I'm gonna put 84 at peak. But again, when I think of Return of Godzilla, like that soundtrack is so iconic for it. Just the intro and the low bass and dun dun, and then the strings or something. Again, I'm not a music major, so I'm really bad at describing music. But like when the melodies start kicking in, it's just so amazing. And then the Super X theme is just like it may get you pumped up, and even though I'm biased for this film, I truly believe that it is peak. I'm going to say the same thing with Biollante. I do think Biollante's track, there's something about the first two Heisei films that I really feel, the more I think about it, in terms of the films in general, I wish the Heisei series would have really stuck with these two films and kind of grew from that. And I think when Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah came out, it really changed the direction of the Heisei series in terms of like tone and maybe visuals and stuff. But I don't know, man. Biollante as well. Not only the film is a classic itself, but the soundtrack too. BioWars. Do I even have to explain BioWars? Like that soundtrack's just it's just a great soundtrack. And then Akira Ifukube comes back for the Heisei stuff. When it comes to Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, I could say the rest of the Heisei series has a really good soundtrack. But here's the thing. And again, a lot of people look at me as a Heisei fanboy, but when I really think about it, I'm gonna put it in amazing because a lot of the tracks, if I'm remembering my trivia correctly, a lot of the tracks used in the Heisei stuff was earlier Akira Ifukube tracks that were used in Showa Toho films, that maybe even non-Godzilla movies. So a lot of it is kind of reused. There is a lot of new stuff, of course, that Akira Ifukube did, but I know that there's also some things that were reused. So I'm gonna put it as amazing. And I'm gonna do the same thing for Mothra versus God or Godzilla versus Mothra '92. Both soundtracks are amazing, and this is the thing. I can honestly put the Heisei. It's none of the Heisei soundtracks are going below A. Like it's all gonna be S or A. Godzilla versus Mecha Godzilla though '93. This one though, I probably would put it peak because of the intro with Mecha Godzilla's theme is just so like iconic for it. It just plays so well. Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla, one of my favorites. I think it's an underrated film, but I would put it in amazing. I wouldn't say that the soundtrack is peak, but I still love the Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla soundtrack. And then of course Godzilla vs. Destroyer, that I mean, I got to honor Akira Ifukube for his final soundtrack that he ever did. He went all out for it. Yes, it has some reused tracks, I believe, but in general, you just, I mean, Destroya's soundtrack is just so damn good. Okay, now let's talk about 98. I'm gonna put 98 in average, because it has a theme, but it also falls victim to the whole kind of generic Hollywood film blockbuster soundtracks in a way. But when I listen to it on its own, it's not bad. So that's why I would put it at average. Now Godzilla 2000, I'm gonna put that in amazing as well. Again, there's so many tracks, but the main through line, the main theme of the movie that plays a lot actually throughout the movie is just awesome. The, you know, doon, 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 doon. It's great. So that one's definitely going in amazing. Now I'm gonna put Godzilla vs. Megaguirus here as well because of the other composer that I think was like the next best thing after Akira Ifukube, Michiru Oshima. I think I said her name correctly. You know, when she took over for, you know, some of the Millennium films, like her soundtracks, I feel, are the best thing next to Akira Ifukube. So I'm gonna put her stuff at least at amazing. Again, wouldn't say peak, but it's still great. Now GMK, this instantly goes in peak. I mean, I just, like, duh. Like, I don't think you can not have GMK as peak because the music was just so different from any other Godzilla soundtrack at the time. Kao Otani, the way he does his music is just, it just has this grand epic scale to it. For those of you who don't know, he also did like the soundtrack for you gamers out there who he did Shadow the Colossus as well, and he also did the Gamera Heisei trilogy soundtrack. So like this guy's resume is just amazing, and his soundtrack is just I don't think I have to explain further. Next is the Kiryu duology. You know, for Michiru though, I think I might be mispronouncing her name. I'm gonna put the Kiryu stuff at peak because I feel like she pulled out all the stops for that because I would assume that they were gonna do a trilogy, that they had planned to do a trilogy, but of course because of box office numbers and all that stuff, they had to can it and whatever. But it's just like I feel like what Megaguirus started, it was like I feel like the soundtrack of Megaguirus walked so that the Kiryu duology music could run, if that makes sense. And of course we have Final Wars, and I gotta put my boy Final Wars at peak as well. Say what you will about Final Wars, say what you will about the quality of the film, all that stuff, and even say what you will about some of the music. I know that not all the tracks are amazing, but to me it's like it is one of the most varied and exciting Godzilla soundtracks out there, and some of the tracks are just unbelievably good. I mean, the main theme when he's fighting Monster X, some of the intro stuff, like even when they're fighting Manda, like the music, it just gets you so pumped for the movie, and it's great. Godzilla 2014, I am struggling to put it in peak or amazing because I feel like the soundtrack, just like the film itself, has aged very well with time, but I don't know if it's peak worthy. So I think I might put it at amazing still. I would say it's at amazing. Yeah, and we'll come back to that. We'll come back to the reason why later, but yeah, I would say it's amazing. Now Shin Godzilla, on the other hand, I'm also going to put that in amazing as well, because I do know that, again, similar to Godzilla vs. Gigan, a lot of the tracks used in Shin Godzilla were actually used from Evangelion, from their previous works or whatever. But how they incorporated it and the themes and the all that stuff was just like fantastic. Okay, now we have the anime trilogy. Now, this kind of hurts for me because I love Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla soundtrack and I love Godzilla 2000 soundtrack. And the anime trilogy was made by the same composer. However, I don't really remember much of the soundtracks, and I don't know if that's just because the films weren't that great, and so therefore it kind of hurt the soundtracks themselves. If you were to put the soundtracks on for me, I probably would be able to somewhat recognize maybe some of the main themes or something. So I hate to say it, but I might put them in forgetful. If I'm being completely honest, I can't remember, like, I can't hum a single thing. Like, I could hum something from Raids Again. I could hum something from Ghidorah or Invasion, whatever. But, like, the trilogy, the anime trilogy, I just can't think of a track that instantly pops into my head. So, unfortunately, I'm going to put that in forgetful. Now, the reason why I said 2014 was amazing, I will have to go with the hype. Godzilla vs. King of the Monsters 2019 is peak. Bear McCready is an amazing composer, and I know that sometimes he might get a little overhyped, but I mean, the man, like, the soundtrack for this film was incorporating the Godzilla theme with the chanting and all that. And then of course the end credits where you had the singer from System of a Down doing the cover of Go Go, or from that Blue Oyster Cult song for Godzilla. Like, of course it has to go in peak. Now, the Singular Point soundtrack, I'm also going to put in forgetful. I don't remember a single thing from it at all. Like, 100%. I literally can't even remember anything. I'm not going to put it in awful, because if I'm being honest, I don't think there's any awful Godzilla soundtracks, but I can't remember a single thing from Singular Point, so it's just in forgetful. Now, Godzilla vs. Kong, I actually do kind of like it. I think the composer, he gets a lot of bad rap, I think. I don't know why. I mean, again, having to go up against Bear McCready was a tall order, but I think what he did with Godzilla vs. Kong, like, I like the theme song for it. Like, I like the intro, like when the title card's popping up and it's a dun 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 dun. Like, I think the tracks fit, and it gets me hyped. So I would say it's amazing. Godzilla -1 soundtrack, I'm putting that in peak because everything about -1 is peak. I don't care if I'm overhyping it. I am a -1 fanboy, and it's peak. Like, what he did with what the composer did with the -1 soundtrack was something. It was so atmospheric, but then the main suites, the suite tracks, or how do I say this, the tracks that played, like, for instance, when like it was the King Kong versus Godzilla track, when they brought that in towards the end of the film, towards the climax, when they're trying to sink Godzilla, that whole, like, dun 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 dun, like when they sped the tempo up, I just got chills. So -1 is there for sure. I'm gonna put the New Empire as well in amazing, because I know it's from the same guy of Godzilla vs. Kong, and the Empire continues to, it has the same themes brought over, because it's sort of, they're a direct sequel. So I would say that it is amazing, because the tracks they get you hyped for the film. So with that said, boom, there we go. There is my ranking of all of the Godzilla soundtracks. So again, I want to thank Dr. Conjira for the request. And let me know if you guys agree with this list, or if you guys disagree. I would love to have a discussion, a polite, civil discussion in the comments below. But yeah, let me know if you agree or disagree, and I'd love to read them. That's all from me, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, stay big, G fans.